Hello and welcome, Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond. I'm Jared Watson along with Andy Billman. This podcast, of course, is a part of Waiting for Next Year. Check out the site, waitingfornextyear.com. We've got all original Cleveland sports content. You don't want to miss it. Today's show, we're going to talk a lot about the Cleveland Indians. And, of course, our focus at the moment is with Trevor Bauer throwing the ball into center field over the fence at Kansas City. Mandy Bell is going to join us in a little bit, and we're going to get her perspective. Mandy Bell, of course, Indians beat reporter, MLB.com, Indians.com. Check her stuff out. And we're also going to look at kind of the outlook for the Tribe as they are in a fight with the Twins to really try to grab control of the AL Central. We'll get some Bauer thoughts, Bauer's apology. We're going to talk about that stuff. Andy, let's jump right in it. Trevor Bauer, really, it's an old term. You've shown his ass.
Cleveland Indians.
He had one of those moments in sports where people are going to be like, Jose Canseco gets the ball off the head. There's a lot of other moments in sports where you go, I kind of remember where I was at when these moments happen. Bench clearing brawl between Pedro Martinez. He throws Zimmer down. The moment in the White Sox Royals where the first base coach for the Royals gets attacked by two White Sox fans. These are all moments in baseball.
Nolan Ryan and Robin Ventura.
Yeah, Robin Ventura is a good example. These are all moments where you're on the wrong side of the story. Trevor Bauer certainly was on the wrong side of the story. I'm going to go to the play-by-play of what I was doing with Jared yesterday, because I thought I kind of really put into perspective what was going on. When everything that teed up that game, people didn't watch it. There was a myriad of errors in that whole game that led up to it. And what was so disappointing is the Indians had a 3-0 start before an out was recorded. Santana hits a 3-run shot. He was injured the last couple of days. You're feeling great, flying high. But to be fair, on the road, you never know. Whitfield hits a double, and you can tell immediately it was going to be one of those days for Bauer. And Bauer had to really grind it out. But still, you're still feeling good. There's some back and forth, yada, yada. It's 5-3 in the fifth. And there's been some house of horrible moments for the Indians in center field in Kansas City. Grady Sizemore running into the wall. There's been a couple other moments like that. I remember a moment where center fielder, I can't remember his name at the moment, but in 2013-14, he had a horrible moment out there. And then we had yesterday, Oscar Mercado loses the ball in the sun. It was a bad error. And I know the sun's bright, but that was a bad error. He's a young kid. It is a little frustrating. Okay, sure. And then Jared, it was just a myriad of baseball, dink and dunk, and then you get the bases loaded. Bauer has an opportunity. It's a short grounder, short chopper. He has an opportunity to scoop it with his glove and toss it to Perez for the tag out, force out at home. It doesn't happen. And from that moment, I started texting Jared, said, I think Bauer needs to come out. And I actually texted him, I think Bauer needs to come out right now.
Well, yeah, you were watching it. I was in and out of listening to it because I was in Annapolis and had some running around to do with the wife. So, by the time I was listening to it, it was like the fourth inning, something like that. Yeah. I think Tom Hamilton was like taking his inning break at that point.
It was Rosie.
Rosie was calling the fourth or into the fifth. And then by the time I got home, we started taking care of dinner. I put the game back on for a second. I shut it off, and then I start getting your text, and I'm like, yeah, I can tell it's already gonna be a rough one. I'm gonna focus on dinner, and then sure enough, you sent me the text, and I was like, what
all
the
hell broke loose. All hell broke loose. All hell broke loose, and then you could see it building though throughout the inning. And then the moment happens. Bauer, I still haven't seen a replay of something, but I guess he took the ball. Something happened there, and then finally he got another ball, and he throws it. We've all seen it now. He throws it to center field.
Well, yeah, that's the case, right? He threw it into the net behind the home plate at first. Correct?
Home plate, which I have not seen a shot of that, but I guess that's what happened. Also on that play, before he gets taken out, if you watch the replay, I'm not trying to nitpick, but I think it needs to be noted. Bauer also does not cover behind Perez, so Bauer had checked out. Bauer by that point, he wasn't backing up Perez. He was kind of wandering around the infield. You could just tell he was lost for his moments.
Well, now, having watched that, Andy, I got to ask you, did it seem like he was pissed off at Bowers and Mercado? See, now that's not okay either, I guess, to be visibly like that when you're on the field. Am I wrong? I think that's something I'd address in the dugout, if anything.
He had a lot of moments yesterday where he does, we've seen Bauer.
Yeah, the shoulder shrugs, yep.
Head down.
Oh, my God, what are you doing? Yeah, not very forgiving of other people.
And he had another moment too at the umpire where he thought it was strike 3 and he walked off the mound. And you can tell he was having one of those days. And this has been building all year with Bauer. Bauer has pitched okay to good, but not to the level I was expecting.
Been in and
not
out
to
of,
the level
been in and out of good starts, Andy.
Yeah, it has not been to the level we were expecting. Yesterday, to me, finally, I think all year, and I mentioned this to you, and now I can say it. I felt it. I felt at times we've handled Bauer with kid gloves, and we've been very gentle, and we've been trying to massage him and trying to make sure he gets through this. And Jarid, it finally imploded. His anger finally took over, and you saw the explosion we all did. So here's my thing about this. I really think this is the breaking point, and this is rock bottom for Trevor Bauer. I'm a believer in this in sports. You either rise up and you're able to rise above the moment, or you start to fizzle out. And that's why I see Bauer going. I think Bauer will either take this as a moment of, hey, I can't get any worse. I will never allow this to happen again. I'm going to take the ownership of this moment and thrive in it, or you're going to fizzle. And I will tell you, I have no guess one way or the other right now. But that's where Trevor Bauer's at. And I think Trevor Bauer, who had a great apology, who said the right thing and did the right thing, you can tell from nonverbal language on the field and in the dugout, there were other Indians, and from what we're hearing, and we'll ask Mandy Bell, from other Indians, they had been frustrated with his antics for a while. And during that game, as you mentioned to, the Mercado, the Jake Bauers throwing it over Perez's head, those moments are frustrating. He did have some bad nonverbal, and Jarid, it all caught up with him yesterday in one moment. Francona, I don't blame him. I think Francona's nonverbal of him following into the dugout and into the locker room.
He was verbal on the mound.
Oh, he was very verbal on the mound and nonverbal too, because he followed him. He was hot. I think Trevor Bauer, from here on, now I'm going to go into the future real quick. I think Trevor Bauer will not be traded. Right. I would be surprised if Trevor Bauer's back in 2020. I think this is it. Well, because he's made these ultimatums about his salary, because he's made these ultimatums about how the Indians should trade him, Jarid, I think he cemented his fate this year. I think this is it.
So I guess that we're in a situation where I'm going to go back to saying, believe someone when they show you who they are, right?
Yep.
I say that every once in a while. I've thrown it out there. And, I've believed it for a while with Trevor. I haven't always been that easy on him. Now, granted, you're right. The kid glove stuff, you're right. I did a little bit. And that came after reading the SI interview. The SI article that came out gave you some insight into, his development and why he kind of became the way he was in regard to his these spats that he has with, whether it be people on social media or other guys that he's pitched with or thrown against, or other guys in the league. And then we also get to this point where we're talking about there's got to be some thought in the clubhouse has been really good about not really talking a lot and showing standing behind him in a lot of situations where you're kind of wondering, are they really with him? Well, now I can tell you, I don't know anyone that, again, believe him when he shows you who he is, that is going to be all that quick to get his back. I just can't see that being a possibility. Now, as to whether the rest of the season, is this a turning point? Look, you're right. This is people come to a fork in the road in their lives. Whether it be for their career, for their family, for where they're going to live, whatever it may be, you come to a fork in the road and you have to make a choice. And in this case, Bauer has to make a choice on whether he wants to actually get a hold of this behavior of his that is completely inappropriate, completely childish, completely unacceptable, or if he's going to continue down that path. And it's not going to be something that changes overnight. Now, let's play this game. Let's say he fixes himself. Let's say he decides he's going to take, the high road in regard to let's say caring about his mental health, because clearly he's not happy right now. So finding different ways to have outlets to get his frustrations out, to control that anger, to control the way that he acts. Let's say he does all the right things from here on out. Let's say he gets suspended for a game or whatever, misses a start, whatever. How hard is it, for him to be getting that team to support him again throughout the rest of this season, especially at a point in the season where they need him? more than anything.
Jared.
How selfish. So let's say he does that. Let's say he does it. And then by the end of the season, I can see Trevor being the one who will backstep his comments in regard to, I'm only signing 1-year deals. Burp. I'll go wherever they're going to give me the most money. Burp. He's got to pull all of that dumb stuff back in, because he's got no room for any of that right now. And he might be lucky if he were to get an offer long-term, 3-year, 4-year with the Indians at the end of the season, because that might be his best bet and his best chance in going forward for his career. Now, I'm not saying he won't get paid more somewhere else. I'm not saying,
I agree,
you know
with
what?
You.
After the
I
time,
agree with you.
You know, he can take a 1 year here and a 1 year there and get paid and blah, blah, blah. But how long is that going to last? How long are these teams going to get his back if he's just a rental? Nobody wants that. The only team that has ever given him the patience is the Cleveland Indians, that has stood there. Tito, he owes Tito. I can't even. You shot yourself in the foot, Trevor. You made an ass of yourself. You embarrassed the team. You embarrassed Tito. And you did it at a point in the season where you're this close to grabbing the Central. You're so close to doing it. And a loss was fine. I don't give a shit about a loss. There's 162 games a season. I'll take a loss. I don't give a shit. Don't tell me that this was you. I'm sick, and I don't want to hear any of these morons. I won't name call. I don't want to hear anyone tell me that this is acceptable.
It's not. And by the way, it's not.
I care about a lot of shit in my life,
by the way,
I don't
for how
act
much I'll
like
defend
a fucking
Clevelanders.
child.
That is not
that?
how you act. And he's right. Trevor Bauer said this, not Jared, not me. That was a dangerous play he did, throwing that ball in center field. Jared, that was dangerous. That could have gone. Can you imagine if that ball slipped? Can you imagine?
And smashed Lindor or
Freeman?
Yeah, in the face. Or Freeman in the face, exactly.
I mean, Freeman jumped out of the way
Freeman
for a reason.
Flinched like crazy.
Yeah, he did. I mean, look, people.
That's a bullpen. That's a bullpen out in center field, right?
I don't know what's behind there. I've been to Kaufman. I forget. But leading to your point,
you don't know if that's going to hit someone in the head.
Oh, I agree. And he said it too. I mean, look. Before we get to the apology, you hit on something that I was going to mention. If he wanted leverage to negotiate with the Indians, that leverage is gone. Because he's going to actually have to probably take a hit to come back. And I think the Indians have all the leverage in the room to say that now. Now, here's one thing that I do believe, and I don't know if this is going to happen, but I'm going to throw this hypothetical out there. And I think it's a positive one. Trevor Bauer was not going, his season was not going correctly. I kept mentioning on this podcast, he's the ace. He's the ace. I did that kind of a purpose because I think he is the ace. He needs to be the
expectation that you had.
He has to be the ace. And you know what? Yesterday, I think happened for one. If there's one positive that needed to happen for him to wake up, be like, this isn't going correctly. You've had a wonderful PR run. You've had a wonderful attention grab run. But honestly, if we're being truthful, you didn't make the All-Star game. Your ERA is closer to 4. It's probably over 4 after yesterday. You've given up a lot of home runs this year, and we know that's not your standard. And you've had a hard time explaining it in press conferences. And I like Trevor Bauer. I want him to win. But Jared said it, and I agree with it. I'm going to double down. You can't do what you did. And by the way, it does not show fire. It shows frustration. It shows anger. I'm just going to say
lack of control.
It's a little Bobby Knight-ish.
Lack of impulse control.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little Bobby Knight-ish. It's a little something where it's like, that's kind of
there's something
scary.
There's something to say about this type of behavior that for some reason at this point, and listen, I'm not on ESPN. For some reason at this point in our country right now, this sort of behavior is looked at as if it's a positive.
It's not.
And I got to tell you, there's nothing positive about being an ass.
You were
nothing.
You were supposed to be competitive, but you're supposed to also keep people around you safe. And Trevor Bauer was not safe yesterday. I mentioned to Jared on text messages, you got to pull Bauer. Why? Because I didn't feel like he was mentally there. And clearly he wasn't. I hope for Trevor's sake he learns from this moment. I hope he rebounds. I think I think he needed this moment for his turning around at 19. So it wasn't going in the right direction. And his antics yesterday were bad. Guys and girls out there, even before what will happen, his antics with reaction, walking off the mound thinking of strike 3, all that stuff, it was built. He didn't back up Perez on that single. Those are the things that keep building, and they've been going on all year, and it's enough. It has to stop. This is a big moment for Trevor Bauer in his career, and this is huge. And that's why it's not a show of, hey, he's competitive. It's a showing of frustration and anger. This is Jared, this is his moment. He can take this, and he can run, but I will warn everybody, in sports, if you don't, you will fizzle, and it will go quick, and you'll be out.
Very quickly.
And the Indians have pitchers ready to go. So the leverage for the Indians has been lost.
Unexpected.
Yes. And I'll say this too. You cannot trade Trevor Bauer now. You're not going to get fair trade value. So you got to hang on to him. And I'm going to say that. I don't think you should trade Trevor Bauer. I think you got to hang on to him. You got to ride this thing out. But again, I think the cards have been played. And Jared, I would be shocked if he's back here in 2020.
Well,
shocked.
There's
Shocked.
something that is just, I don't know what it is, Andy, and I know that this wouldn't be a normal type of move for this team. But there's something in my mind. I really feel like the Yankees might reach for him.
They have a for sale sign on. They have a for sale sign on. They need pitching badly.
I mean, I think they might do it. I don't know whether we're going to be able to get what, I mean, the bottom line is I don't know how the Indians, I don't know how the front office would work a deal. But I feel like if the Yankees are still on the board as a possibility, and maybe the only ones, the Indians in a strange way have the upper hand if they were to make a deal in regard
Possibly.
to Bauer. Only because the only thing that is keeping the Yankees on that possible play is because of how desperate they are.
And I'll say this, if they make that trade, I want one name in that package. Clint Frazier. I know there'll be other things wrapped around it. I want to see Clint Frazier's name in there. Because they are clearly stashing him away in Scranton. That kid can hit. That kid has had some frustration moments in New York. Maybe it's a frustration for a frustration trade. And okay, now I'm going to take something back that I'll say. If that trade's available, I would take that trade from the Indians. If you get another prospect or two and Clint Frazier for Bauer, ship it. Stamp it and ship it. Because you need a bat. You need a bat badly. And we'll get to that in the second half of this, but you need a bat badly. But other than that trade, I think his trade value, I know there's been experts and people say his trade value doesn't diminish. I think it does. I think it takes a hit.
Well, it has to. It has to. And maybe let's say this. All right, maybe trade value hasn't diminished, but teams to trade with that are possibly in the hunt for him, that's diminished.
And that diminishes.
You want to have that argument? Too. Maybe we can have that argument.
But. Yeah, and by the way, that diminishes your trade value because now you're gambling against one team or two teams.
Oh, he has to come out the ace as you wanted him to step up and become for the rest of this season. Otherwise, like that's the only way that you walk away from this feeling okay. There's some real big scenarios. One, he's got to walk the walk for the rest of the season. Two, he's got to show up and throw lights out for most of the rest of the season. Yeah. And three, he's got to come when it matters most in the playoffs. Period. If you don't show up.
Yeah. I thought what was interesting too, and I want to hear if Mandy heard anything else. I believe Perez spoke, but I did not hear any Indian talk about Bauer after the game. I looked at every Google. I tried to do all this. I didn't see anything.
Well, you got to figure a lot of those guys were probably waiting for their moment to finally completely turn their back on him. And I know that sounds harsh, but you got to think that there are guys in that dugout who throughout the year have been like, why are we still putting up with this shit? And then this happened and they finally felt like, okay, here's the moment. We're done.
Yeah. Is he, I mean, literally,
I don't like beating up on him in that way. It feels like, you're picking on someone.
But you have to, Jared, you have to.
I know.
Jared, you have to. Jared, he alluded to it. The guy said it. I'll say this. I do want to get to this point. His apology was appropriate. His apology was well done. And I'll tell you what, Trevor had to have a good moment in that, and he did.
Right.
He executed properly. So he said, I was sorry to everyone. And I was proud of him for this. This is not an easy thing to say. I put people in danger for what I did, and he's right. He did. And it takes a lot of guts to say that, and I give Bauer a lot of credit. He did admit it. All that to be said, to what Jared's alluding to, and I now feel it. I think Bauer's going to have to really dig deep. And I know in sports this sounds weird, but if he is the person I think he could be, this is his Phoenix moment. Hey, no one believes in you now.
Yeah.
Okay? There's doubters everywhere. Here's your moment to take the reins and ride off.
Maybe he'll finally shut his mouth
it.
and listen to people that have been trying to give him good advice and help him for the past how many years in that city. Damn it. It just is so infuriating. And maybe it's because I have a feeling I know why, because I can relate. Because when I was in the military, I had let's say one troop that drives me nuts in the same way, where you can tell them until you're blue in the face, and you can love them all day long, and it doesn't matter. They will sabotage themselves to the point where it's up to them to dig their asses out of their hole, and it's up to them to actually sit and reflect and think about all the advice that they've ignored to this point, all of it, all the good advice from people who have lived long lives and experienced way more in life than you have. Trevor's not even 30 years old, but he knows better than everyone, and that's why he acts the way that he does. You better change, Trev, or you're going to keep banging your head. You ever think about that? You bang your head off the wall. Why are you banging your head off the wall when the door's right next to you? You can walk right through. That's what that behavior's like. You can come through the door. It's unlocked, Trev. You don't got to bang your head off the wall until you go through it. There's easier paths. Make good choices.
He's at rock bottom. Let's see how he responds. To someone who's in KC that witnessed it, and for her insider's perspective and more, here's our friend, Indians beat writer, Mandy Bell.
Joining us, Mandy Bell, Indians beat reporter. Check out her writing on MLB.com or at Indians.com. Mandy, what's going on? Kind of a good time to talk to you, I think, for Andy and I, following the game yesterday and what we saw, the display out of Trevor Bauer. I'm sure you knew we were going to want to talk to you about it. We were planning on getting a hold of you anyway, and it just so happened that happened. So I guess why not? Let's start with that. Mandy, what in the world was that yesterday?
That was Trevor Bauer just at his breaking point. I mean, you could see the emotion wearing on him throughout the entire start. You could see it as early as whenever Jake Bauers had his throwing error to the plate. He steps on first and he tries to throw home, and he airmails it about 50 feet above Roberto Perez's head into the netting behind the plate. 2 runs score, and then the game is tied, and you can start to see Trevor getting a little bit angry and frustrated. He wears his emotions on his sleeve 24/7. He thought in the 3rd inning he was walking off the mound to a strike 3 call. The umpire didn't give it to him, so he had to go back out on the mound after a walk. And I mean, you could just see him living and dying, it seems like, on every single pitch. And then that 5th inning just started to fall apart. Weird things happen. Mercado loses the ball in the sun. He's giving up base hits. He tries to do a little scoop with his glove about a couple feet in front of the plate and flip it home, and he wasn't able to even handle the play, and then he's frustrated with himself. So he goes back out to the mound, and he asks for a new ball. Everyone keeps talking about the heave over the center field wall, but he started to break down before that. He asked for a new ball, and he chucked the ball that he had in his hand against the netting toward the Royals dugout. It was like sort of over the on-deck circle. He chucked that ball into the netting, and you can see in the replay where it looks like Sarby was standing there beside Tito, and he was like, "Did you just see that?" And you can see Tito say, like, "What just happened?" And he explained that he threw it over against the netting, and Tito looked up at him, and he started coming up the steps. And when Trevor saw Tito coming out, that's whenever he turned and launched the ball. I mean, an impressive 380 some feet. I mean, that was the throw was impressive.
Yeah, I guess I'll give him that.
You saw Tito get angry. Yeah. Tito was very angry when he came
Lip,
out. You could see him getting
yeah,
very
lip
frustrated.
readers have already clarified what Tito said to Trev on the mound, and you can only imagine what happened in the tunnel after that. I know Tito also had gestured over to the Royals after that as well, as if to apologize. When you've got your skipper apologizing for behavior like that to another team, you know that this is not going well.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, the second that it left his hand and he threw it out toward the outfield, and he turned toward Francona, he put his hand on Francona's shoulder immediately. You could tell he regretted it the second that he did it. But whenever he walked off the mound, I have never seen Tito move faster. He was charging behind him down the tunnel, and I mean, we all know that Bauer learned his lesson pretty quickly after that one. Tito said that he wanted to keep that between the two of them post game, as expected.
Yes.
But
Right.
but yeah, that could not have been pretty.
All right, so that's the reaction on the field. What was the vibe? You were in the locker room. What was the vibe post game outside of Francona? What kind of, did you speak to anyone? Did you really see, what was the kind of the mood from all the teammates?
Yeah, after Tito, we went straight over to Trevor, and he handled it as professionally as anybody could have. It was probably one of the most genuine moments, and he's a pretty genuine guy. He tells you his feelings straight up. There's no sugarcoating it with him. But for him to go to the level of emotion that he did, it was a really interesting moment. I mean, he was as level-headed about it as possible. You could tell that he meant what he said, and nothing. He had no script on him or anything, but he just rolled right through it, and he said all the right things, and it seemed like he meant everything that he said. He told us that he apologized to the team right after the game. We asked how did the team respond to that, and he basically gave like a I don't really know answer. So you could tell the guys in the clubhouse, it was very, very silent. The guys in the clubhouse were very frustrated with how he reacted. And I mean, rightfully so. It's tough to be standing out there trying to play behind a guy and support a guy that is showing the frustration that he showed, especially in that moment, because he did throw it towards center field, and people started to assume he was angry at Mercado because of the way he played the ball that got lost in the sun. So he went and apologized to Mercado personally in the dugout, trying to say, this was not about you. I know it looked like it was. It was not. And he clarified that with us, too, after the game. But we did talk to Roberto Perez, after we talked to Bauer, and we said, I mean, we know he's one of the closer friends of Bauer on the team. The two of them work 24/7 and together, and they talk all the time. And he basically said, look, that was Trevor being Trevor, and we understand that. And we understand that that's his passion and everything, but like he's got to let that stuff go, because we're trying to compete every single day, and everyone has days like that, but you have to be able to handle those days, and he needs to do a better job of it. So whenever you hear that in a post-game interview, and just from one of the teammates that's closest to him, you know that there's frustration building after something like that. And an off day will serve them well. Everyone will cool down. Everything they'll all move on, and everything will be okay after this, obviously. But it was just a very frustrating moment for the whole team.
I gotta tell you, Mandy, the way that I'm looking at this, it's really difficult. It took a lot for me to get over my feelings about Trevor and the way he handles himself on social media, right? And then you also have to get over the way that he demands to train the way that he trains, which, by the way, works for him, and that's great most of the time. But we know that we've seen him slide a little bit on and off lately. And then we come to this, and I feel like this was inevitable in a sense, because we know who Trevor Bauer is. We see his behaviors on a regular basis. He acts kind of invincible at times in regard to how flippant he can be when he goes back at people for coming at him. And now that we're in this position, it's going to be tough for some folks in that clubhouse to say that they're going to want to back him anymore. There's got to be folks in there that are saying enough is enough with this guy. I'm just playing devil's advocate, because I will tell you that after I went after Trevor on Twitter for that behavior. I also commended him for apologizing in the way that he did. I know that he was sincere. I can tell. But at the same time, that doesn't forgive the behaviors. I've got to think that there are people that are just completely sick of this, not only for the fact of what he did to the team and the embarrassment, but what he did to himself in regard to trade value at this point. When we know we're coming up on a deadline, he shot himself in the foot. He backed the Indians into a corner with him, and there aren't many choices or outs at this point. I'm wondering, is he going to be taken out of the rotation for 1 or 2 rounds? Is there anything else, a fine that he's looking at possibly? And of all the teams that are possibly still looking at wanting to make a move for Bauer, if that is the case, are the Yankees still in that conversation? I'm assuming they're the only ones, if anyone, at this point.
Yeah, it's tough.
So I threw a lot at you there. I apologize.
No, you're okay. It's tough because it just happened so soon. So it's hard to get a good grasp of what's changed in the last, I guess it would be about 24 hours now since it's happened. So I know the front office wasn't expecting to have to spend their last 48 hours of the trade deadline having to answer questions about the outburst from yesterday and any possible trade situations, any possible clubs who had interest or still have interest in Trevor Bauer. His numbers are obviously still speaking for themselves, and it's a challenge because he'll look at that, and a lot of people, surprisingly, when I saw it on Twitter, were defending it because they said that that's his passion, and then there's a lot of people who are viewing it that way, and I was honestly surprised how many people took it that way. I was thinking it was going to be more. Yeah, they were saying that he wants to win and he just gets frustrated, and that's just how badly he wants to win. And I was honestly surprised with how much that popped up on Twitter. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot that's going to go down in the last 48 hours. It's going to be nonstop talking. Are the Yankees still interested? I'm not sure. It's tough because when you think of Trevor Bauer, and you think of like the stereotypical Yankee way, it just the two just don't really seem to mesh well. So yeah. I don't know, but the Yankees are desperate for starting pitching. So it's a tough situation.
Yeah, as I read one Yankee fan on Twitter, for sale sign went up, and I agree if you're a Yankee fan. The last thing on Bauer, Mandy, where do you think Bauer goes from here? I'll give my 2 cents real quick. I really think Bauer's at his breaking point. He'll either thrive after this moment, rise to the occasion, and really realize he has an opportunity to maybe get through this and really pick up and really become the leader he wants to be, and he's been vocalizing all year. Or, Mandy, I hate to say it, I think Bauer could really fall apart and the wheels will come off, and I think he's going to fizzle out. I think it's one or the other. I don't think there's a touch of gray anymore with Bauer. In your opinion, where do you see Bauer going from here?
I see it as him turning this into a way to get better and to be able to improve after. I mean, like you said, I could see it going either way. But the way that he was talking yesterday, the way that he was wording his sentences, saying, if they accept me back into the brotherhood, if they forgive me, and the things that he's saying, he realizes how big of a screw up yesterday was. And he realizes that he has to earn everyone's trust back and get back to the way that things were just a couple starts ago. Mm-hmm. And so I think because of that, nobody works harder than Trevor Bauer. I mean, it's hard to find somebody who just dedicates 24/7 to pitching and getting better and analysis and data and all of the stuff that he does around the clock. So when he sees himself at this type of breaking point, I can see him being someone who's like, okay, now I have to prove to the world that I can get back to where I was, and he'll work as hard as ever to do that. But I know you touched on it before. I could see a suspension or a fine coming.
Yeah, I can too.
His way. I know it's happened in the past. Whenever I know it was a first for me seeing it, but it has happened in the past. And those have been like 3 or 4 game suspensions or somewhere along those lines. So maybe they might extend it out so he does miss one start or something like that. Which I mean, he sort of expected that, and he said when we asked him, like, are you expecting like any type of fine or anything, and he answered it the best way he could have. He's like, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about getting my teammates back and getting them to forgive me and focusing solely on building up like this morale in the clubhouse and patching everything up that he basically just tore apart.
Right.
And so he blamed it all on himself, and he said everything right. So I could see him bouncing back in a way that tries to prove that he can get back to where he was.
Inopportune time. 2 games back right now. Taking that division back into their hands in the Central. 2 games. That's it. Should be 1.5 after last night. Isn't the case. Mandy, I'm sorry. You can tell. I'm really frustrated. I'm really frustrated. The more we talk about it, I'm letting Andy go ahead. I got nothing.
All right. Well, let's all play, and Jared, you can weigh in too. But let's go have Mandy go first. So we're all in Vegas, and we bet on August 1st. Is Bauer still in Indy? And I say yes. Mandy?
Yes.
Jared?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think he's
I think
going
so
anywhere.
too. I think so too. I think he stays. We'll get down the road what they do, but I think I've covered Bauer as much as I can, and we'll talk about that more later. So going back to other things, or actually, do you have one more on Bauer? 'Cause I'm good on Bauer.
Bauer, it's more on Mandy's tweet yesterday that I was reading into. I don't know if you were going to go into that, but the way that Tito had talked about Salazar and the pitching staff as a whole, Mandy, it seemed like he was alluding to something else on the way that we would find, clearly find out about. He said Tuesday, right?
Yeah. Tomorrow's supposed to be the day that they announced the plan for Salazar. I think he said that his rehab clock expires on Wednesday, so we knew it was going to be coming. But he didn't want to announce it too soon, and he does that a lot. He says that a lot of times. But there was that little line in there that he said that they need to talk to some people about making sure that there's going to be the right moves and everyone's informed before they announce any plans. So whether that means just clearing roster spots or if that means moving someone out of the rotation to put him in as a starter now, I mean, it's an interesting conversation. I know a lot of people keep tweeting at me to see if they can just have Plesac and Salazar just split like 3 or 4 innings together and their starts and stuff. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Well, I mean, at this point, anything's possible. So let's just throw it all out there.
Can we wait till October for games like that, please?
All right.
Yeah, seriously.
Elimination games, we're going to throw everyone, change it out every inning.
Yeah, seriously. Let's actually, you know what? I was going to bring this up anyways. Is Plesac on a pitch count, Mandy? So I know he had some arm injuries before. I've heard rumors that he might be. Is Plesac coming up at a point where he can't pitch 6 or 7 innings going into September and October?
Yeah, we touched on it a little bit whenever he first came up and when he proved that he could be up to stay, and Tito sort of talked about it earlier, saying, look, we're going to watch him, we're not stupid here, we understand what we have on our hands, but he's never straight up said what they're going to start controlling or what they're going to start limiting or where they want to start targeting. But it's definitely something that's on their minds, and I'm sure over this next homestand we'll be able to get some clarification on that as it's starting to get closer to the end of the season, and possibility of having Salazar as an option and Corey Kluber as an option maybe as early as late August. So yeah, they definitely will be able to back off the pedal a little bit with Plesac if that's what they're hoping for.
Right, and let's pick up there. I'll give you the names: Kluber, Rodriguez, and let's end on Zimmer. But let's start with the 2 pitchers first. Latest and greatest with Kluber, you just kind of said late August. Heffrey, and then let's get Zimmer at the end. What are the latest on those guys' injuries?
Kluber is going to be simulating some innings tomorrow. He's going to be out in the bullpen and do a little bit of like an up-down, try to play it out as if he's pitching a few innings or so rather than just going out there and throwing 45 consecutive pitches. So they're going to try to get a feel for that. If all goes well and he comes out of that feeling pretty healthy and strong, they're going to try to get some live hitters for him to face on Saturday, I believe. And Tito doesn't want that to be the Indians, so they're going to check in with like Mahoning Valley or teams like that, see who's home and figure out some people that they can throw in the box against him. But they seem pretty pleased with how he's been going. We talked to him over the weekend, and he seems pretty pleased with everything that he's seen so far. So seems pretty optimistic with him. And
Jeffrey.
Then we have Jeffrey is a little bit less optimistic at this point. They just moved him to the 60-day. He just had his first bullpen out in Arizona. He's been out in Arizona this whole time. And Tito didn't get any report other than it went well. So he didn't get very much like detail on exactly how it's going. It's just a little bit of a slower process, I think, for Rodriguez than what we're looking at with Kluber right now, just because he has been down for so long and he's just now starting the bullpen process, and they're going to ease him into that because he's coming back from that shoulder strain, and they don't want to rush anything too much with him, and they have a lot of starting pitching options right now, so there's not really too much of a need to rush him. So they want to make sure that they do everything exactly right with him to make sure that this is completely gone. But he at least is starting bullpens. Bradley Zimmer, it just seems like every single time that you get a positive report, you ask a couple of days later and he found some sort of a way to have a setback, which has been, I'm sure, frustrating for him. After getting to know him during spring training, he was ready to prove everybody wrong, prove his timeline wrong from his surgery in July. Like, I want to come back sooner. And then it just seemed like everything just turned against him. He had that setback right around opening day. That was his oblique. And then when he worked his way back from that, he was just about to go on his rehab assignment in June. And then he had a shoulder setback again. So then he started working his way back from that. We were like, we haven't really heard anything about him recently. So I asked over the weekend, and Tito said he hurt the other oblique now.
Oh, so, wow.
Asked if that was something like, okay, was that throwing because he did that the first time, and he said, I don't know, I don't even know if he knows. So he's down again. So again, once he gets back in, it's going to be ramping himself back up, and it's going to be a slow process. But Tito says every time it's just frustrating because he's a guy in his 20s. It's tough to miss a full season. It's developmental seasons, and you get so put behind everybody else that's playing every single day, and you can only imagine how frustrated he has to be sitting out in Goodyear.
Yeah, before Jared goes on Zimmer, I think to your point, Mandy, I think next year is going to be very interesting for Zimmer and the plans going forward, especially seeing Oscar Mercado, seeing that there might be some money freed up with Kipnis and other people who might stay or go. I think it's going to be interesting. I feel bad for Zimmer, but it's going to be interesting to see how much longer they go on that wavelength.
Yeah, and Mandy...
and then Daniel Johnson as well.
Yeah, oh my, I've heard great...
as well makes it even harder.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been hearing great things about him. I guess we should allude to that before we get to Jared saying, what is the latest with... I've heard wonderful things about Johnson. Wonderful.
I don't think I've ever heard a negative report come in. When he was about to be promoted up from AA to AAA, we were asking about him all the time, and Tito just kept that everyone just keeps raving about him. And then for him to have the futures game and represent the Indians there, talking to him there, he seems confident. He seems ready. He is just chomping at the bit to get his first call up to the bigs. And I mean, he's just destroyed in AA and AAA. It's been really impressive. He's turned a lot of heads, and the Indians are looking like they won that Jan Gomes trade back in November with both
which
Jeffrey
we
and
destroyed
Daniel.
them on.
Andy
and I were both not happy about that move. We just never expected it. And I know, Mandy, when you told us that Perez was down in down in the DR working his ass off, hitting the ball, you weren't kidding. I should have trusted you from the beginning, and I apologize.
He's really impressed. He's shocked a lot of people, and it's been extremely impressive to watch him. It's always funny. Zach Meisel of The Athletic always updates the stat lines of Roberto Perez and Jan Gomes, and just to keep putting everything in perspective of where both of them are throughout the year, and then that just keeps convincing more and more people that that was an okay deal for the Indians to make.
I've got two guys on my mind right now. One of them just came to my mind, and I should have thought about this earlier. Bobby Bradley, we're going to see him back up anytime in the near future.
I would just say in September that he would be coming back up. Before that, I just don't see a need for it. He came up, he got a taste, and Tito said that it's said 1,000 times with guys that have come up that it can be so valuable just to get an understanding of what it's like up there, get all the first out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
But there was just so many times that you could just tell he was just a little bit overmatched, and his numbers in AAA were extremely great. I mean, his power just speaks for itself. But I mean, even his strikeout rate in AAA is off the charts, and it has been over the last few years in the minors. So that just doesn't that doesn't translate too well whenever you're starting to get to pitchers who can make adjustments way quicker than what they do in the minors and things like that. So he struggled a little bit. He got a taste of some things. The Indians got a first-hand look at him for a decent amount of games, but I think he just needs a little bit more time to keep developing. I mean, he's 23. He has plenty of time to keep developing for the rest of the season, and I think he'll be back up in September.
He can hit the hell out of the ball. He can hit the hell out of a fastball.
He looks the part.
Yes,
he looks the part more than anyone has looked the part this season for the Indians, in my opinion. So when he can, get those eyes to follow that, the breaking stuff and be ready for it. I have big high hopes for Bobby Bradley. So moving on to Carlos Carrasco, the support that he got over All-Star Weekend from the team, from the community, from Major League Baseball as a whole. How's Cookie doing? And I'm guessing that that just the positivity is good for someone who's been handed a struggle like Carlos Carrasco has.
All those moments were just incredibly, just unbelievable, indescribable. It was just the amount of goosebumps that were in that ballpark that night. It was just unbelievable during that All-Star game. And he even said it the next day. We finally got to talk to him for the first time since his diagnosis, and he was overwhelmed. Everyone just raves about him. There's not a single guy in that clubhouse that could ever find a negative thing to say about Carlos Carrasco, and he is just so loved by his teammates that they're just so excited when he's on the bench every single night now and during home games. So they just get so pumped for him to be there. And Shane Bieber was saying that in one of his last starts at home. I think it was right before the All-Star break. Carrasco always yells like the little intros to like the Baby by Justin Bieber. He always sings Justin Bieber songs to Shane Bieber. And Bieber was out on the mound and he heard Carlos screaming that from the dugout. And he said, and I just heard that and I just smiled out on the mound. Like, it's just so great to have him back. So just having his presence around, and just not even just for him to be a distraction, has just been so great for the team. They love him. They need him there. And so that's been really, really neat to be able to watch that firsthand. But as far as like an update with him, it's tough. I mean, this is not really a typical thing that people can map out and figure out exactly when he'll bounce back and how much time he needs. I mean, a leukemia diagnosis isn't like just treating a shoulder strain or an ankle sprain or something like that. It's tough. You have to listen to your body. You have to go through, I mean, he's going through treatment, and we don't know how long the treatment is. He didn't really want to touch on the specifics of his treatment, understandably so. I mean, that's his private information, and so we can't really guess when he'd be back. He said that he'd like to pitch again this year, but he doesn't know. When we asked, do you think you'll pitch again this year, he says, I don't know. I wish I had that answer. It's tough. That's not something that's just super simple. But go through that type of a battle with your body and then be able to pitch in the intensity of Major League Baseball. It's a challenge. So maybe September. Maybe when the rosters are expanded and they don't have to make a big move to be able to get him back on the team and different things like that. But I think it would be September, no earlier, if at all this year. But no matter what, he's going to be in that dugout and everyone's going to be very excited that he's there.
One last question on pitching. It's, if I started the year to go, who's the ace of the Indians, I'd probably say Bauer. Midway through the year, I'd be like, I still think Bauer. It's probably Shane Bieber now, right? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. I was gonna say the meteoric rise of Shane Bieber, and if I'm being truthful, I think your second is Clevenger. So, Mandy, am I crazy if we get positivity and the Twinkies sink and the Indians take the rise and we go into a series against the Yanks or Astros? I'm thinking Bieber 1, Clevenger 2, Bauer / Kluber 3. Is that crazy? Is that what you'd be thinking too?
At this point, after what Bieber has shown over the last few weeks, no, I don't say Bieber's crazy in the slightest. I think right now, if they would end today and the wild cards tomorrow, I think that the decision would come down to be
Yeah.
Well, I guess I shouldn't say till tomorrow because everything's so fresh from this weekend. If that didn't happen, we would say that was between Bauer and Bieber, I think, for the wild card start. But Bieber has put such a convincing case together.
Yeah.
And he's been the anchor of this rotation. When he was told in spring training that he was coming out of the chute as the number 5 starter, which Tito doesn't take like to be too much. He doesn't play that up. He's like, as soon as the season starts, then anyone can fall anywhere. But
Sure.
to be technically the quote unquote number 5 starter, and then you have Carrasco, Clevenger, and Kluber all fall at some point. For him to be the one who stepped up to carry everybody rather than Bauer. Bauer struggled through May as soon as Kluber got hurt, and Bieber was the anchor. For that to be a 24-year-old kid out on the mound doing that in just his second year in the big leagues, I mean, that is just so impressive. And Tito can't fight back the smile anytime you ask a question about him. He loves Bieber. He thinks the world of him and his maturity. And he says that every single time you ask the question, he's wise beyond his years. And he really is. And he's proving in every start. He learns from every single start. I think he's putting together a great case that if they need somebody for a wild card game, if that's what it would come down to, he might be the man that they go to.
Tito should have Trev shadow Shane. I think that would help. Have him shadow, just the maturity part. That's all. Just shadow him for a few days.
Here's my last thought of on the field stuff. I circled, and Jared and I talked about this often, Mandy. Even before this hot run, the Indians have been hot. The record proves it. I really thought August was going to be their toughest month. And it really starts, if we're being technical, let's just say the Astros is part of this starting on Tuesday. They play the Angels. They have a New York week. They play the Red Sox coming into town. They play the Angels a whole bunch. I think this is a testing month for this team. I know this team, and Francona, which I love him as a manager, is so day-to-day, and that's what you have to be. Being truthful, do you ever get the vibe from the players they know this is a big – I mean, it's always a big month. It's August. But, Mandy, if I'm being honest, this is a challenging month. A lot of good teams are playing every day. It's a big month for this team, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. This late in the season, this is absolutely the make or break month. This is it. If they can survive this month and come out on the winning side of it, I mean they're going to be in decent shape. But
I agree.
This month could eat them up. I mean, it's a challenge, and they know that. We talked to Kipnis the other night, and whenever they cut it down to just one game behind the Twins, and he was the most candid that we've heard any of the players. I mean, most of the guys like to say, yes, we understand where we are in the standings and stuff, but we're taking game by game, and they say all the right things. But Kipnis was basically saying, no, we're circling the games against the Twins. We know where we are. We know how big this is. We know we have 10 games left, and there's so much baseball to play and so many things to be determined, and we're excited. We're ready, and he just seems so pumped and ready to take on this August schedule. Because he keeps saying, we hear it on Twitter all the time that we can only beat teams that are under 500, and basically we're ready to prove it. And so they know just as much as everybody else does how tough this schedule is going to be. It's tough whenever you have to end the great run that they went on that sour note, the way they did on Sunday, to start the difficult schedule with that taste in their mouth a little bit. It would have been way better to just end on a high note and try to carry that momentum into this Astros series. But the way they respond to it and the way that they started is going to be important. But it's not make or break starting Tuesday. We saw after the All-Star game, they dropped 2 against the Twins, and everyone started to panic, saying this season's done. Everyone said sell. It doesn't matter in the first week, but overall, collectively as a month, it's going to be definitely going to be make or break.
When we're talking about the bats and we're talking about seeing some of these guys come around, we know Carlos Santana has been carrying this offense for the majority of the year. It's nice to see Perez coming around, Luplow hitting the ball, Mercado as well. Frankie had a killer series against the Royals, batting I think over 500 through that series. But when you break it all down, when it all comes down to the fact that we finally are seeing Jose Ramirez back to being himself, how much does that mean to that team, having that bat really just coming back to life in that lineup?
It means everything. I mean, the amount of times that everyone has said that they needed Jose Ramirez has been too high to count, and they've been just waiting and waiting and waiting. And Tito kept saying, "I promise you guys, it's going to happen. I don't know how long it's going to take, but when it does, it's going to happen in a hurry, and it's going to be a difference maker." And man, over the last month, it really has been. I mean, it's funny because it was right around when his daughter was born that he started to really take off, and so we asked him if that was his good luck charm, and he said, "Of course, like she's a blessing." And so it's been really, I mean, especially for me, I wasn't here the last year. I mean, I've obviously seen him on television and stuff, but I've been with other teams and in the AL East the last 2 years that I was like, I'm ready to see the Jose Ramirez that's the MVP candidate that everyone talks about. And so now to see him the way he's been hitting now, it's like, wow, yeah, this is what everyone's been waiting for. I understand it now.
Well, I'll tell you what, it'll be fun to see it. I think about a month ago, Andy was asking me every other show, what are the Indians' likelihood, their percentage-wise, if you had to put a percentage on them winning the Central, where are you at? And I was down to maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% going into July, I think. And then I'm turning around now, and I'm going, holy crap, they came to life. This is amazing. 2 games back of the Twins right now. I'm not even worried about wild card. I genuinely believe this team has got a real shot at taking the Central and possibly pulling away depending on how they play this month, because the Twins have looked extremely shaky. What do you think about that? And then we'll wrap things up for you, Mandy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they have a really good shot at the division. And like you said, I think it was right around the All-Star break. I was looking at Baseball Prospectus. They had like the percentage, the odds and everything that they thought of each team winning their respective divisions. And they had the Indians down at 11% and 13%, like right around that range. I'm thinking, man, that is extremely low. I get it. They were like 4 or 5 games out at that time, or like 4 games out at that time. I'm thinking, I get it, but man, I'm thinking more toward 30%, and they just kept running with it.
I was thinking, I kept telling Andy, if they get to within 6, if they get to within 6 by the break, then we'll talk, maybe.
I actually think that's how hot the Indians have been. I know the Twins have been slumping a little bit, but honestly, the Indians have been that hot. They really, really have. I mean, they showed the records the other day, but following your point, Mandy, and Jared, I think the big thing that I noticed too, this is the fun part of the year. The Indians have not been in a race like this in a while. This is a true race. 2 games, 2 months to play. It's fun. Do you get that vibe? I mean, you got it, right, Mandy, in the clubhouse? Everybody knows this is a dead. I mean, I see this going all the way down the last game. I really do.
For sure. I think it's going to be a hard-fought battle to the very end, and I think it's good. I mean, the last few years where they just basically sort of ran away with the division, it's sort of hard whenever you're trying to get into a playoff mindset. I think this level of competition is good for them, and I think they're enjoying it. Obviously, they didn't like the start that they got off to and having to climb back the way that they did, but I mean, the fact that they did it has them so much more pumped in the clubhouse. And it gives them that much more of a drive than if they would have just been ahead 11 games like the Twins were and then have to, lose it the way they did. I think being the underdog has been enjoyable for them, the way that they were able to battle back once they started clicking as a new team. And I think that's going to be something that they can carry with them the rest of the year. There's 10 games left against the Twins alone, so there's just so much room for either team to pull away with it if that's the way it happens, or they can basically split it the rest of the way, and they make up ground elsewhere. But I think it's going to be a battle to the very end, like you said.
Well, they seem to be a team that's ready to face adversity and step up to those challenges. You know that all falls on Tito and some of the vets that are in that clubhouse. Mandy Bell, thanks for joining us. I think that they've got a good shot this year. I'd love to see them grind it out, and that could pay positive dividends as they go into to late September, October. Fingers crossed. We'll talk to you, of course, before then again, sometime in the near future. Mandy Bell, Indians beat reporter, MLB.com, Indians.com, for all her great stuff. Mandy, thanks as always for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys.
Thanks, Mandy, for that. She was wonderful as always and really gave us some good insight there towards the end, kind of breaking it down. And, we alluded to doing this podcast. August is everything. I really think this is the make or break month for this team. If if I'm being a fair and equal moderator, I think truthfully the more talented team is the Twins right now. I think the Twins have a lot more things flowing through it from a schedule perspective as they went through a tough part of their schedule. They now get to watch the Indians do the same. And again, Jared alluded to at the top of the show, it's not just, it's obviously a lot of Bauer today, but if we're going back to the team for a second, they had a good road trip. They did some good things at home, but, beating the Royals and beating the Tigers is not beating the Astros, the Angels, the Yankees, and the Red Sox. So it'll be interesting to see what this team is made of in these moments. And, the Dan Plezaks in the world, and I like Dan. Is it Zach? Why did I just call him Dan? It's Zach, right?
No, you're right. It is Zach.
Which one is it? Is it Zach or Dan?
Are you thinking Dan Otero?
Zach. Why did I do that? I'm thinking of Dan Plezak, his dad, or Dan Otero, who, by the way, is also coming back. We didn't ask Mandy that today. But Zach, all these different things. Salazar, the wild card of Salazar coming. The Indians are going to need all the help they can get these next few weeks because these are going to be some tough games. You're going to have some moments in particular where you're going to need Trevor Bauer to go 7 or 8 innings. You're going to need someone like Salazar. If he's available and put in the roster, Salazar needs a pitch. Salazar's got a lot to live up to. Jake Bauers is going to need to hit. J-Ram, who's been very hot, needs to continue his hotness. This is a big month for this team, Jared. I'm really interested to see if they can continue where they left off, even after the loss yesterday. Because they've had
the silver lining behind it all is the fact that they're the hottest team in baseball right now, and that their bats and that they're hitting better than they've hit all year, and that you've got guys that are going to end up within the next couple of years being all-stars in this league. Mercado being one of them, even though he lost the ball. Just
outstanding.
Luplow has really shown out. Above expectations. Perez with the bat. As we talked with Mandy, it's just
Santana's having a dream.
There's a lot of potential for this to come together, and I got to tell you something else too that I didn't know, and it makes me feel a lot better in regard to the cohesion of this team. Is they've got a group chat. I don't know how you feel about group chats, Andy. I've got one with a group of friends that I served with when I was with the Air Force Thunderbirds. There's like 7 of us, right, including our spouses are on there.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been using that thing for years. And when I think about it, I'm like, wow, it's a tight group of friends, right? We're really close. The Indians have that as their whole team. Their whole team has been busting each other's chops, talking about the year, talking about improving, all on a group chat. I know it seems small. It's little things like that I think matter in regard to cohesion and feeling a part of a team and coming together. Whereas I was worried about the lack of leadership that I saw. I think that says something, and I'm starting to see as they start to improve offensively, that identity start to come out, a little touch of the swagger, a touch of the belief in themselves. They're still very young, and probably a lot of them don't want to be, loud about some of this stuff. But I like where they're going. I really do. And I think that there's a shot. I know a lot of people don't. I think they've really got a shot for the Central. I do. I do think they have a shot for the Central. And the only thing that I alluded to you, and I'll say now, I think this team's a bat and a half short. Yeah.
In a big spot in a big series, I think they're going to need to hit better than what even they've been having lately. They've done much better. Oscar Mercado, we'll have to look at numbers for other players. I think he's Rookie of the Year. Look, we're all Indians fans. So that's what we believe. But I just have never seen a rookie like this.
All right, Manny never got it.
Well, because of what's his name from Kansas City.
Yeah, exactly. Who ended up being a bust.
A huge bust. But Mercado's been wonderful. He's really settled that lineup at the top because you kind of know who your 1, 2, 3 batters are. The other thing, too, it's a positive. Lindor has not gone off yet this year. He hasn't had one of those tears where he's really hit the cover off the ball. It would be nice to see it now, these last 2 months.
Well, he's getting there. I mean, he like I had said earlier, he hit for over 500 during that Royal Series. I think he was
the one who
he was
hit.
like at one point he was 10 for 19, and that was towards the middle of the last game. Yeah, the other day.
Yeah, no, and I should be fair. So, in that World Series, a lot of people hit. Kipnis did too. I thought you were alluding to last year during the playoffs. He was the only.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah, the playoffs, that's
all another ball wax.
Boy,
but I mean, here's the other things I'll notice that I am noticing that are positives. You hit on Luplow. Jake Bauers, I'll be fair, he's been playing better lately. We noticed on J-Ram, his numbers are up. That's been the big story lately. Perez has really stepped up to the role he's done. The other thing, too, that the Indians, you can tell, they're getting enough experience now from all these guys have been up and back, Naquins and Greg Allens, where now that they come back up, they don't seem as unconfident. They seem to be in a big spot. Now, the playoffs are different, but Naquin in the playoffs doesn't worry me as much as it would have 2 years ago. I could see Naquin raking in a big spot in the playoffs. I think there's some guys.
Kipnis in the playoffs worries me more than Naquin in the playoffs. There's what we
Yeah, I mean, Kipnis is, and Kipnis kind of acknowledges it too. I mean, he's kind of boom or bust, right? He's either red hot or he just doesn't hit, and that's too bad. I love Kipnis. I'm such a big fan of his. But I'll allude to it. I think the one guy in this team, and forgive me, maybe he's had a streak like this year. I just have not seen Lindor go off yet. I haven't seen one of those 2 or 3 weeks where he's just
you're right.
led the team, and boy, we could use it right now. The other thing, too, that I talked about with Mandy that I'll bring up on the other half of this, the Shane Bieber experience has been wonderful this year. And, he is becoming the man in this rotation. And he has not just lightly taken the mantle. Jared, he's grabbed the mantle. And he has really become such a force that now if you put Bieber into one hole, you're feeling good. Clevenger, it's not bad. Like, you can figure this out.
We were laughing about it after he got the MVP in the All-Star game, thinking, that's good for Bieber. Good for him. Let's pump the brakes a little bit, though. It's, we're not there yet with him. He's got some, and then he throws that one hitter. Oh,
he's special. That kid's really good.
Yeah, it really is as strange a season as this has been, right? When it comes to expectations and what we think the Tribe is going to do, what they should do, what their actual talent level is at the end of the day. I got to tell you, it's really turning into a fun season to watch. They're grinding it out. Of course, there's going to be days like yesterday where I float in and out because there's just something wrong. But you can't deny the fact that they're winning these games and they're making it fun. And, I got to tell you, if I was living near Cleveland, I'd be going every weekend. That's where I'm at with this team right now. I'm back on the bandwagon in regard to believing in them. I just hope that August. I hope I'm not eating my words at the end of the month.
Yeah, I'll just say this: this team, like all Francona teams, very likable. They play hard, and they're interchangeable, and they're work pale kind of guys. The Browns, how much I love them. They're flashy. They're fun. They pursue. You can feel the buzz and the aura. The Indians are very much in a positive way to the opposite. They bring their lunch pail. Outside of Cleveland, people say that's Naquin. They mispronounce names, like things like that in the outfield. Like
right.
There's just a lot of guys who is that? I've heard of him, and but I think.
Yeah, wait, I thought Bowers was a pitcher.
Right, exactly. That's a good one too. So I think all that is good for the Indians. One other thing that I want to throw to, then I want to get to a couple Browns things and then go from there. I'm not putting a red flag, but I got my eyes on this. Brad Hand's had a couple weeks now where it's been like, wow, this has been okay. Let's just get 1, 2, 3. Now it isn't consistent, and it hasn't been alarming, but we've had some moments now in the past 2 or 3 weeks. It's like, boy, in Toronto, that didn't work out the other night. He's had some other moments just like, wow, he's getting hit pretty hard. I think the shine's a little bit off of Brad Hand lately, if I'm being honest. Doesn't mean he's not bad.
I think it's fine. I expect it. I'd rather see it now than look. If we've got this issue at the end of the month, then I'll say yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's hitting a bump in the road. It's fine. It happens.
All relievers do. All relievers do. Yeah.
I still got to tell you, I don't get nervous every time he steps to the mound like I did with Jose Mesa and with other prior closers that have made me go, oh gosh, don't. Giving up a hit or two and to the leadoff batter in the 9th, and there's always that stress. I don't normally get that feeling out of
right.
him. I know he's had a couple bumps in the road. It's been a rather calm year for him up until these bumps in the road. I'll have an answer at the end of the month. I don't think it's going to continue to be a problem, though. I really don't.
I don't think so either. I'm just saying I got my eye on it.
Yep. No, you're right.
Big week for the Indians. It starts at Houston. It starts with Houston at home, and it kind of carries from there. And we won't relive it again. That's the August death march for the Tribe. Let's do a little Browns. So yesterday, Chad Thomas gets in a big fight. Some flare up happens on training camp. The other thing that really caught my eye, I'm going off Grossy's notes here.
That was with Talkie.
Talkie, yeah. Well, Chad Thomas, yeah, Talkie, Chad Thomas is typical flare-up stuff. I know Chad Thomas made more scene because it was, they threw a penalty flag, and I know there's been some displeasure with Thomas, they said afterwards, so it sounds like that's kind of being boiled up. That's aside. I know that's kind of been more of the headlines there. I think that's just more because of the flare-up. Here is the one thing, though, that grabbed my attention that I think we've been talking about that now we can say again. And again, Tony Grossi wrote this on ESPNCleveland.com so you can read it. The bad is the conclusion of the kickers. Greg Joseph's try from 45 yards was wide left. Austin Seibert's kick from 51 yards was right and short. Short. Okay?
Andy, the best tweet that I heard about that kick was he kicked it 50 and missed by 20. And I'm sorry I can't give credit to whoever said it. But that was the line on Twitter yesterday. He kicked for 50 and missed it by 20.
Let me just say this to someone who's close to a kicker. Let me just say this, folks. This situation needs to be watched. There is a little red flag that's lowered, that is slowly rising. It's one day.
I'd raise this one faster than the Brad Hand one.
We all did.
To be honest.
We all did.
It's been half-mast since last year, if not all the way up.
After the Baltimore win.
We haven't had a chance to lower the flag when it comes to kicker.
This needs to be watched. This is not good. That's a bad start. Kitchens, quote, hopefully he comes out tomorrow and does better after Seibert's misses. Oh boy. Listen, when you're a kicker, you better have a short memory if you're playing for us. I'm not concerned about that kick. I'm worried about the one tomorrow.
All right, I get that. Coach always talks about living in the moment. It's he cares about, he doesn't want people to remember yesterday. He wants you to be your best on the day, the next day. Andy, I just boy, oh boy, you got to be honest in regard to all of this. And if I'm being honest, I never understood the Browns' lack of effort in regarding getting a qualified kicker in there.
I'm just
in the offseason, earlier, prior to now, in the draft even.
Well, they got one. They got Seibert. They drafted.
Well, but when did they grab him?
Like sixth, seventh round.
Did they grab him fifth or sixth? Okay, so maybe that was maybe they just made a bad call. Then you're right. I wasn't even thinking.
Yeah.
About
so no, it's okay.
For some reason, I thought they grabbed him.
No, they drafted him. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about all this, though. And Jared said it perfectly. This shit better stop fast. And I mean tomorrow's practice, today's practice. Mm-hmm. I don't want to fucking read bullshit like this all year round because this will cost the Browns a couple games.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad at the kickers. I'm actually mad at what you said. Treat this seriously. Get this fixed. When you saw a problem with the defense, you did a good job. You got Larry Murray, and I will compliment all that. And you can't fix all these holes. But this is an eyesore. Let's see what happens. Let's see if Seibert and Joseph can rebound. I will say this, though. Joseph aside, I have not read one positive thing yet about Seibert. I'm waiting for the positive comments to come out.
I mean,
am I wrong?
We're going for two every time, Andy. Going for two every time. Didn't the Steelers do that? Didn't they have to do that a couple years ago? Last year, 2 years ago?
Everybody doesn't listen. I will.
It's going to cost them. They lost 3 or 4 games last year because of a kicker. You think that they'd I know you don't want to. I know Coach Kitchens doesn't want to think about yesterday. He wants to focus on today.
Again,
but Yesterday is what got us in this situation. Got to pay attention to it a little bit.
The special teams coach, all this stuff. Heed this warning. I have yet to see anybody yet say, hey, the kicking competition is getting settled out. It's a definite. The last thing too on this. Seibert, it's early. He's a rookie. God bless. Get settled. And by the way, I am a believer in that. He just came from college to pros. Get settled. Sally, buddy, you're on the wrong team. You better get settled fast. Better get settled fast.
Yeah, we don't have time. I mean, we don't. The clock's ticking. As soon as they assembled this, well, what is hopefully the juggernaut that I believe
it is.
It can be.
Look, it's early. It's one day of bad kicking. It's one day of bad kicking, but
one day of bad kicking at practice.
Jared, I'm not gonna say anymore. I agree with you. I am freaking out about the kicker. I am freaked out. I'm freaked out. I cannot. The kicker, replay that Baltimore kick. That's your guy in a big spot. Enjoy. The good, the good that came off Grossi too. I'm basically reading his article at this point, but I'll take one more because I know this has been talked about.
Cool. Thanks,
Tony Grossi.
Thanks for the content, Tony.
Because I know this got talked about a lot. The defense has really won the day so far in practice. Sounds like yesterday, Chubb and Dontrell Hilliard had a nice day in the running game. Finally got going for the Browns. I don't really take as much in that stuff, but it all equals out throughout the preseason. The one thing that Jared, I was going to allude to anyways, though, that I've been overhearing from everyone is that the defense looks a lot better. You're hearing that from a lot of people. And
well, that's one of the reasons why there's some headbutting going on.
Absolutely.
Some of the argument is Taki had to get talked to by the running backs coach because of it. All I've heard is Myles Garrett's been in the backfield all day at today's practice.
Yep. And Greedy Williams.
Defense is
Greedy Williams.
And Baker had to yell at his guys when he was at one point in practice 2 days ago.
Yeah, no, it happens.
Because I think he got flushed from the pocket. So I guess my point is all the frustration that we're hearing that's happening. It's happening because of these strange positives on the defensive side of the ball. I mean,
you can just hear.
It's got a lot of potential, man.
And by the way, this is not from one source or one article. You read it everywhere. Everybody's raving about the improvement on defense. The other thing, too, you hear a lot about, I kind of said his name, is Greedy Williams. He has made an instant impact on this team. And for a team that didn't have a first-round pick, look, they can't hide it because they're so excited. Greedy Williams is going to play this year, folks.
Him and Ward.
Man.
Yeah, him and Ward might. I would have the pick-off count, turnover count.
It's going to be great.
Forced fumble count.
It's gonna. It is. Browns are exciting. Just hopefully they're not down 2 with a field goal to win. Outside of that, I think they're in great shape. The only other thing I got real quickly that I've been noticing a lot, Jared, that we kind of alluded to, and I just want to bring up again, is I heard Michael Irvin today on First Take. The bandwagon's starting to be jumped on by more and more people nationally, not just the Browns are being talked about. Michael Irvin thinks the Browns are going to be very good. And I'm starting to hear that from more and more people that are not from Cleveland, that are not Browns fans like you and I, that have a neutral opinion saying, I think the Browns are going to be really good. So there is a mounting momentum for the Browns. You can feel it. I agree with Jared. We overthink things and whatever. I agree with Jared said it first. And I look, this team's loaded. This team is going to be so good. And I think the defense, I think it's going to shock people how much it improves. I think it's just going to be shocking. But I wanted to mention, as I heard today from Michael Irvin, and I've seen it some other places, people nationally who have visited Cleveland or been reading about it or have gotten insight, not just are saying, I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be very good.
12 wins. Standing by it. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. Andy, can you see this dog behind me, by the way? Do you see this dog?
Looks happy.
This is how she sits. She sits like a human on the couch
right.
with her legs under her.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, boxers. Ladies and gentlemen, get yourself a boxer. They're strange dogs. Sorry, I had to point that out.
It's for a podcast, it's great to have good visuals. So
That's why I described it.
On the next show, I'm going to go through a myriad of topics, which I don't think we should go into today, that I saw over July. So we'll just save it for that for later. So I do want to get into my quick thought on Wimbledon, Women's World Cup. I don't think we should do that today. We kind of, look, Bauer kind of took over the momentum of the day as it should. That moment was a big thing. It was a big deal. We'll have to wait and see. The Indians did make one trade. We didn't get a chance to talk about that with Mandy. A lot of people.
Yeah, I think I'm going to see a little bit more of how
it was with the Rays, and I know the pitcher they got looks like he's going to be used immediately. The other guy's injured for the rest of the year, so he's not going to be playing much. But the relief pitcher they got, they're saying good things. I mean, I'll be fair. I watch a lot of baseball. For some reason or another, I never catch the Rays, so I really am not familiar with the pitcher. So I won't say anything more than that at this point. But again, we mentioned we hammered Bauer to death. Big month for the Indians. The one thing that I will give this team credit for, I'm going to give a lot of it to Francona and how the players have settled in. They have really, at the right time, taken advantage of a schedule that was soft. They won a lot of big games, and they needed to win those games. Sometimes people take that for granted. Francona never does, and that's why he's a wonderful manager. And, for better or for worse, I know the division's number one, and I'm the same way. But, Jared, for better or for worse, you got to think now the Indians are making the playoffs. Either as a wild card or as a division.
Yeah. The way that the way that they've got what 3? Are they about 3 games up on?
They
that
have a safe lead.
They
have a safe pocket.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and the team behind them, Tampa Bay's trading people now. So I mean,
and I gotta be honest with you, Andy. I don't know how I feel. I mean, I'm gonna have to watch this Astros series. I know there's certain teams that give the Indians fits. I don't worry as much about teams like the Red Sox, especially because we've talked about this too. I feel like they've shown us who they are. The Indians have handled them just fine. I don't really worry about the Yankees so much either in the series. I feel like
boy.
Did we take 2 of 3 out of the last? Did we go 1?
No,
2
out of 3.
I gotta look again.
Won the whole thing, but
yeah.
But I'm telling you, I love your positivity, but I'm gonna pour cold water on it.
I'm just saying it's certain teams that can drag us down. They haven't really completely proven themselves against the Twins yet. They struggle against the A's. They struggle against teams like the Texans. They struggle against these other teams that are good but not great. But they've looked good against the Yankees. They've looked good against. Did they struggle with the Rays at one point too?
They got whipped.
Yeah. See, but the team that's leading the division, I don't know. I don't know.
We'll see.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I don't know. Maybe this has something to do with matchups. Maybe that's what it is.
Well, the Indians certainly have the pitching, and I guess here's the one other note I have. Then the Indians in this. Let's see, 3, 9, and then 4 on the road, and then 12. So 12 out of their next 16 games are at home. But in those home matchups, Red Sox, Rangers, Angels, Astros. In their one road trips at Minnesota.
Let's see what happens. So I know tomorrow we've talked about this. It's not make or break or anything like that. But I really do think that a strong start against the Astros will go a long way in regard to the month of August and at least giving me the feel goods. That's all. That's all. I mean,
Bieber and Verlander.
I won't flip out over it.
Yeah. Yeah, Bieber and Verlander's.
Well, they had trouble, I think, last time against.
Oh, Verlander's up and down,
which was surprising.
But by the way, Verlander, the Indians either rock Verlander or they don't.
Well, that was my point, and I think the last outing that we went up against him, he owned the Indians, but the Indians weren't hitting the ball at the time. Again, different Indians ball club in regard to if they can keep the hitting going. This. And when I say I don't worry about the Yankees, I just feel like they match up against the Yankees and they can beat the Yankees. That's really a better way of saying it. Not worrying. I mean, look, if you're worrying about this to begin with, you need to find some other way to spend your time in your life. I don't know. So obviously there's no reason to worry about it, but you get my point.
I leave it on this note. I think the Indians, they have improved. I love rooting for this team. I love watching this team. I gotta be fair though. This is a big challenge for them in August. We'll see.
Yeah, it is. Andy and Jarid, Jarid, at gmail.com, Andy and Jarid at gmail.com. Send us, I don't know, your show thoughts. Tell us what you think. Tell us how you'd do it. Tell us if you'd improve.
Do you like
on the
boxers
show.
on couches?
Yeah. Do you like talking about dogs sitting on couches like humans? Or do you not like it? Tell me in the email. Describe.
What was your favorite Facebook Live moment?
Also, speaking of Facebook, facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond. Facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond. On Twitter, @CLE and Beyond, @CLE and Beyond. AndyandJarid.com, ClevelandandBeyond.net. That's where the podcast is sitting right there for you to listen to download, to share with your friends. Share with everybody, by the way. I should ask this on every episode, I think, at this point, Andy. Look, I know there's a good-sized group of you who listen to the show on a regular basis, and it means the world to both Andy and I.
We thank you.
We've really worked our asses off for what is now the 54th episode, which is today. And I'm grateful for the fact that people actually take time out of their day to hit play and listen to us bitch and moan about Cleveland sports once a week when we're on that regular schedule. So if you like the show, rate it on iTunes. You can find it right there on iTunes. You're probably subscribed to it on iTunes. Give us a rating. Give us I don't even care if you leave a comment, but if you give us a rating, whether it be 2, 3, 4, 5 stars, whatever, we'd appreciate it. And if you share it with a friend, we'd appreciate that too, because that's how this show has grown since the day that we started.
Yes.
We don't put a lot of money behind it. We haven't locked in any long-term sponsorship.
Oh, you'd be hearing about it if you did.
Yet.
No, don't you worry.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We'll be doing the readers when that stuff happens. But at the same time, growing this from a grassroots level with Indians, Browns, and Cavs fans alike, sharing it from us to you, we appreciate it more than anything, and we would love it if you shared it with your friends. So I'll leave it at that. He's Andy Billman. I'm Jarid Watson. Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and Beyond. Pull your head out of your ass, Trevor. Dust
Rise
off.
up. Rise up.
Rise up. Be
Rise
the
up.
ace that we know you can be. The Indians need you. You're going to have to put in hard work to earn their trust back, though. We understand. But you can do it. That's it. Talk to you again soon. Take care.